A smooth running classroom. There's your ideal, there's your dream, there's your goal. Things work every day. Things work efficiently, effectively, and students are enjoying being in your class and learning with you. Managing the environment, the whole environment, the physical environment, the emotional environment, the behavioral environment of the classroom. That's classroom management, a very large field that involves the whole child, shall we say, and the whole teacher. So you have to think in terms of the physical, the cognitive, the emotional content of the classroom, and not just in terms of managing children's behavior. So much is going on. Okay, what about the physical environment? Teachers have found that the best environment is one that is uncluttered. It's easy to move around, not just for you, but for the students as well. There's some flexible arrangements so that sometimes we can sit in this pattern and other times we need to sit in this pattern. The physical space is enjoyable, flexible, easy to get around in. At the cognitive level, things are busy. What there is to do is motivating. What there is to do is relevant. So the content, the kinds of activities you give your students, not just relevant to you, relevant to them. They understand, they enjoy it, they see meaning in it, so they're going to tend to want to stay busy with it. And then at the emotional level, your students want to feel like they're being supported. They want to feel like you are being fair. They want to feel like the classroom as a whole is a safe place and that everyone in the classroom is respecting each other, grown-ups, kids, everybody. And it's something to think about like this. You are the center, the heart of the classroom. You're not the entire emotional content of the classroom. Everybody in the room has emotions, but you are the focus of all that. Think about what that means and how that alters your behavior. Managing the environment. All right, what else? Well, teachers have different styles of teaching and managing. Similar to the way there are different kinds of parenting techniques. There's the authoritarian manager who gives out the rules, makes the decisions because I want compliance. That's my goal. I want my students to comply with what I want and need them to do. That's the authoritarian approach. A lot of people say, oh, that's probably very harsh. And that's probably going to involve a lot of yelling at them. Not necessarily. It could be actually fairly pleasant. It could have a teacher speaking in a whisper even. But no nonsense, top down, this is what you do, you comply. There is the teaching parenting style that would be considered permissive. The idea here is we ought to all be friends. I will allow you some space to be yourself. I will forgive you. The idea here is I want us to all feel a sense of harmony. I want us to all be creative people. And then there's what's called the authoritative style of managing, which involves rules and consequences and discussing them and explaining, because the goal here is not you comply with what I want, and it is not, oh, we need to all be friends here. The goal is I want you to eventually get to the point where you're managing yourself, self-management. Now, there's a topic right there that's worth exploring. What does it mean to train students, any age, in self-management skills? Well, one of the things that really helps is to guide your students to learn to recognize their own behavior, to be able to see themselves in action and what effect their behavior is having on other people and attitudes too. Get them to stop and think. What are you doing? What effect is it having on yourself and others? Learn to pause before acting and speaking. You model that as a teacher, and you encourage students. You expect your students to do the same thing. Before you blurt out, before you run over there to the other side of the room, stop. Think about it. Think about it. You teach them I statements. Okay, somebody just misbehaved. Bring them over. Let's have a talk. All right, what did you do? Well, she, no, what did you do? Well, she, no, what did you do? It's hard. It's hard at first. It's hard for students, for children, to get the idea that they need to talk about themselves and their own behavior, their own attitude, and not look for someone to blame. But you model that, and you expect that from them. And you inspire, and you encourage, and you expect personal integrity from your students, which means take responsibility for yourself. No blame. Take responsibility and model that, of course. And modeling and expecting respect for others. It's a big deal these days. You hear a lot of people talk about respect in the classroom. It's a very meaningful thing, because if people are distrustful, sarcastic toward each other, the atmosphere is ruined. And so this is important. Okay, here's something that you'll probably see in a lot of classrooms, especially elementary classrooms. The rules are written and they are posted for everyone to see all the time. But if we look a little bit closer, we can see that there's logic there and there are strategies there in terms of classroom rules. Go back sometime to the slide right before this one and read those rules again, and you will see they are simple, they are clear, and they are written in the positive stance. Okay? We respect each other rather than don't disrespect people. It's important to put a positive spin on the rules so that you're telling students this is what is expected of you rather than this is what I don't want to see. Make sure they understand what it is you do want to see and hear from them. Consequences. If a rule is broken, how are you going to be consistent? How are you going to be fair and appropriate? And you know, consistent, fair, and appropriate may not always be equal to each other. You have to decide that. Will you have the same consequence for the same rule being broken by two different students? Or are you going to say, no, that student is very different from this student. I can't give them the same consequence. Well, you're going to have to work that out. How can you be fair and appropriate and show some kind of consistency? Even if you're not treating everybody exactly the same, you better have a good reason. Are you going to use rewards and incentives like, behavioral psychology? Is that how you will enforce the rules, by rewarding them for following the rules? Are you going to give them incentives and say, if you follow the rules, then at the end of the day we'll do such and such? Are you going to do that sort of thing? Is that important to you? Is that something your students expect you to do? Look over the environment. Look over your students and see, is that something you would prefer to do? Is it something you have to do even if you don't prefer it? At least at first. Will your rewards and incentives be for the whole class, or will it be for individuals? Will you set up a token economy which is always good if you've got a classroom that is on the verge of chaos at any given moment. Maybe a token economy may not be your preference, but maybe that's exactly what will bring that chaos down to something manageable quickly so that you can get on to your goal of self-management down the road sometime. Are you going to work with individual contracts, as I showed in another video, where you can make a chart for each student who needs some special help remembering the rules and following the rules? Are you going to use what's called assertive discipline? One infraction of the rules, this is the consequence. Next time you do an infraction of the rules today, the consequence gets a little harsher. And the third time, it's even harsher still. That's assertive discipline. And they know the rules ahead of time, and they know what to expect ahead of time. It works for some people. Some people don't prefer it, but if it works, and that's what your students need, at least at this point in time, you may need to consider it. What else? Well, let's see. One of the things that teachers are notoriously famous for is, eyes in the back of the head. What we really mean by that is a good teacher, a good manager, has with-itness. A teacher who knows what's going on in all little corners of the classroom all the time. The teacher can see and be seen at all times. Even when bending over to give help to one student, that teacher still knows what's going on everywhere else. You develop your with-itness as a manager. You develop routines that your students can depend on so that they know you're giving help to this student. You don't want to be tapped on the shoulder. Well, where do we turn in this paper? Oh my gosh, can you imagine how many distractions in a day you could have if you didn't have some simple routines? Homework goes here, and this goes there, and this is when we do this, and they know it. And if they don't know it, their friend can remind them. Also, what has been found to be extremely important in management is that you give your students activities, things to do that are accomplishable, relevant, and accountable. Okay, let's look at those three words. Accomplishable. You don't turn them loose with something that's so fuzzy that they don't know how to even get started. They know what to do and they know how to accomplish it. There's support written right into the instructions. What you're giving them to do is relevant. They understand why they're doing it. It makes sense because it relates to something they've learned before, something they need to know. And what they're doing is accountable. Okay? When you take back all their work, you're not going to just toss it in the trash can. They are accountable. Whether it's because they'll get a grade on it, they're going to get feedback on it, however you decide to do it, they know that you are going to look over what they've done. There's the idea of student ownership of the classroom. Maybe you give out chores on a rotating basis. Something, anything that helps students feel a part of, a sense of ownership about the physical and emotional environment of the classroom. And then there's teacher talk, the way teachers talk to their students. A teacher is usually going to be constantly reminding and explaining. Yes, reminding, okay. But make sure the tone of voice in reminding doesn't feel like totally frustrated, but instead is matter of fact. And you're explaining why we're doing this, how we're doing this. I messages, something that you're modeling as well as what you're expecting. The I messages are talking about myself, what I think, what I feel. And when I'm talking to you, who just broke one of the classroom rules, I'm going to talk about your behavior. I'm not going to pin it on your personality. I'm not going to even refer to you as a person, as, a personality thing, as if breaking that rule was somehow explainable because of the kind of personality you have. Oh no, we're just going to talk about that behavior in that particular moment. We're not going to bring up the past. We're going to talk about this behavior this minute, because as a person, you're just fine, but we've got to work on this behavior. These are the kind of teacher-taught messages that you find yourself doing all the time, and it's part of classroom management. It goes right along with the rules, with the with-itness, with giving them work to do that is accomplishable and accountable. It all mixes together. And if you watch a good teacher in action, an effective teacher in action, you will see something that looks like a graceful dance, but like swans on a lake. That graceful dance, that gliding on the surface, there's a lot of mad paddling going on under the surface to keep it running. And so that's your best image of classroom management. And I encourage you to talk to teachers and do some supplemental reading and look over review questions, because this is a big and important topic.